Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you all to our exclusive webinar, Speed Up with Synthetic. Today, we'll be covering a lot of ground from AI, synthetic data, to agentic AI, and some upcoming releases. You will get a glimpse of how, at Ipsos, usage of AI is everywhere. We are going beyond the hype today because synthetic is no longer something we just talk about. It is live, it is being used, and today we'll bring you a lot of use cases and solutions where we are applying it responsibly and confidently. So put on your seatbelts. Let's look at the agenda for today. We will start with Amit Adakar, our CEO, with his reflections on synthetic data and AI. This will be followed by our keynote speaker, Krishnendu Datta, who's the practice lead for innovation and market strategy. He'll talk about synthetic data, its power and promise. After this, we will have a scintillating chat with Priyanka from Pepsi, and she'll be talking to Geeta Lobo, who's the Chief Client Officer at Ipsos India, on the topic of paving the way for a secure adoption for synthetic data. And we will close with some exciting new developments and what's coming up next at Ipsos, where Anthony D'Souza, country lead for innovation, will be talking to us. So this is the whole lineup for today. Let me remind everyone that there is a Q&A tab, and you can leave your questions and your comments there. We will take this up at the end. There is a Q&A session at the end, and if we run out of time, we will get back to you on email. So without further ado, let me hand over now for the first session on reflections on synthetic and data and AI from Amit. Over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Pallavi, and thanks for setting up the context so wonderfully. And a warm welcome to all of the clients who are attending this session. We have a lot to cover, and I have the task of setting the context before the experts take over and talk about synthetic data. So I think for me, I'm going to start a bit wider. I'm going to talk about what's happening in the Ipsos world when it comes to AI. And then I will hand over to my colleague Krishnendu, who will talk specifically about what we are doing in the synthetic data field. Now, it will be an understatement to say that AI is everywhere at Ipsos. To be frank, we started the journey with AI even before ChatGPT because in the research industry and within Ipsos, the usage of computational AI has been there for quite some time. In fact, one could say that the market research industry is the OG of data science even before the term was used. So we've been using a lot of computational AI. But what has changed in the last 3 years is generative AI. And now, obviously, we are evolving into agentic AI. But I think the first message I wanted to bring to all of you is that a lot is happening in the Ipsos world when it comes to AI in general. And I want to specifically touch upon three things here. One, there's a lot of experimentation which is happening not only globally within Ipsos, but also within Ipsos India. And I think a technology like AI, which is by and large new, and especially generative AI and agentic AI, they are new technologies. It requires a lot of experimentation because I think everybody who's dabbled in generative AI knows that AI does hallucinate. So to that extent, experimentation, carrying out experiments, validating, trying and testing and failing and trying it again, these are important parts. And after experimentation, there is a need to socialize the learnings. And I think this slide shows you a lot of articles, point of views that Ipsos has pushed out in just a span of last year and a half. So there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of POV generation and socializing. But more importantly, we are deploying AI across our solutions. And as we speak, we have around 14 AI-enabled solutions, which we already put out globally and as well as in India. So I think the first message, AI is something which is not new to Ipsos. We are doing a lot of work and it's all over what we are doing. But at the same time, we need to start within. And we have this fantastic platform called as Ipsos Facto, which was in fact delivered within 2 months of OpenAI launching ChatGPT way back in November of 2022. And this platform is accessed by all of the Ipsosians globally. On an average, more than 10,000 colleagues access Ipsos Facto regularly to make their day-to-day lives easy, to help their clients, to partake in knowledge, and all of that. So I think one of the philosophies that we started when we started this AI journey is to make sure that AI is democratized within Ipsos. Everybody feels comfortable using, and everybody feels comfortable explaining to clients, and obviously innovating. And there's a lot of work which has gone into prompt engineering, and all of the prompts that we use in our solutions, including the work that we do around synthetic data, they're all developed within Ipsos, tested within Ipsos, and validated within Ipsos. Now, I talked about how a lot of work has already happened within Ipsos. But at the same time, what sets us apart is having a strong moral or ethical compass when it comes to AI. And we are a big fan of this triple T network sort of framework, which is truth, transparency, and trust. Because I think everybody knows that AI has a tendency to hallucinate. It can actually go off in a tangent and mislead, and that's why there needs to be a strong human oversight on whatever we do. And I think whatever solutions we put out, whatever point of view that we are putting out, we always look at it from the triple lens of truth, transparency, and trust. So, is what we are delivering via AI, is it accurate? Have we managed the risk? Have we reduced the risk? Have we controlled the hallucination? Have we tried to eliminate the hallucination? Is it explainable? I mean, whatever we're putting out, does it actually make sense? Does it go in line with what all of us know as good researchers? That's about transparency. And finally, it's about trust. Managing the data, the PII, all of that gets into the trust part. So I think we always use the 3T lens to judge whatever we do. And even in synthetic data, these 3Ts play a big role. Now, having said all of those things, I think the one message I wanted to land with you before I hand over to Krishnendu is we are at this stage very uniquely positioned. A, we already have our own platform and a lot of prompts in place, a lot of experimentation and POV in place. B, as a research agency, we already have access to high quality data. And I think this makes a big difference to synthetic data. And I'll cover that in my next slide. Obviously, data science is something that we've been doing for quite some time, even before the days of generative AI through computational AI. And there's a huge network of global experts across 90 countries, which means that, we can share knowledge and validate stuff quite fast. So with all of that, I want to just sort of segue into today's topic, and the topic is synthetic data. Now, obviously, synthetic data, to be frank, it's not something which is entirely new to us. As an industry, as Ipsos, we've been using synthetic data for quite some time. And I think media measurement is classically one field which has been using a lot of data attribution, data fusion in the past, and will continue to use it. But what changed in the last 2 years is A, the entire development of generative AI, and B, the development of agentic AI. Now, obviously, I'm not going to talk about both these things. I'm going to leave it to Krishnendu. But for me, the message is that our work and our grounding and foundation in AI has led to a very solid footing when it comes to synthetic data. And we have done a lot of progress in synthetic data, and we are excited with the kind of opportunities we see ahead of us. Before I hand over to Krishnendu, I just wanted to sort of quickly touch upon the definition of synthetic data so that all of us are on the same page. To us, synthetic data, the definition, you'll find it on the screen, but essentially there are two critical components. A, we have to understand that it's the artificially generated data. It is not real data. It is generated artificially, but it is generated so that it replicates real world patterns. It is inspired and based on real world data and relationships and behaviors. So I think these are the two components I would request all of you to keep in mind, that yes, though it's artificially generated, at the same time it's something which is replicating what is there in the real world. So I'm going to hand over to Krishnendu, and he's going to take us into our progress in the realm of synthetic data. What are the overall implications? What are the watchguards? How we have gone about? And obviously, finally, we'll get into the next session of today's the webinar. Before I hand over, just two quick sort of points from my side. One thing is, as Pallavi rightly said, please feel free to put in your questions into the Q&A box, because we are more than happy to sort of answer any of the questions that you'll have, and we'll take it up later on. And let's be excited and curious about what's around the corner. So with this small ado, I'm going to hand over to Krishnendu. Krishnendu, over to you.
Thank you, Amit. Uh, yeah. So, the over the last decade, there has been an exponential increase in the power of computation. And over the last couple of years, like Amit also said, there has been a significant evolution in the field of AI. And all of these together brings to us the promise of a radiant future when it comes to synthetic data. Imagine more data in less time, collecting it, better access to reach, typically difficult to reach audiences, creation of avatars or personas who are representation of research that you have done to create segments or cohorts that you have profiled assiduously, and of course 100% synthetic samples for immediate effective feedback. So imagine a world where there is speed, agility, better ROI for your investments in research and data science, and faster optimization. But with this promise of the radiant future, there are also risks around synthetic data. And at Ipsos, we use the lens of the European Union AI Act regulation to look at some of the risks around synthetic data. Okay, so now it's important to remember that, and Amit spoke about this, that synthetic data is not real data. It is artificially generated data. So when you are working with any application of synthetic data, you are working with some risk. Okay. And within the realm of low risk applications, we have data boosting or augmentation. We have data imputation and fusion. And these are two applications or use cases that we will spend some time talking about today. With slightly higher risk, there are synthetic personas or bots, and there is full synthetic data. And we will talk about synthetic personas too today. And of course, at Ipsos, we would not like to work with anything in the realm of unacceptable risk and offer that to our clients. Now, let's quickly see what are the synthetic data types and their use cases. Now, two broad buckets. One is data augmentation, and the other one is synthetic participant research. Within data augmentation, further, there are two types. One is called data boosting, and the other one, data imputation. Data boosting is overcoming sample scarcity or boosting for the difficult to access or the difficult to reach audiences and so on and so forth. On the other hand, data imputation is about using synthetic data to fill in missing variables, missing information, missing data, and also fusing data sets to create a more comprehensive and larger, more representative data set. On the other hand, within synthetic participant research, you have Gen AI agents and persona bots, which is really about synthetic personas. This is about the power to actually create digital assistants or avatars who interact with the data from your research, from your data sets, and enable you to talk to them in natural language and use the findings of your existing research far more in a wider way and in a far better democratized way, and also increasing the lifespan or the usability of research that you have already done. And then there is, of course, full synthetic data, which is using the concept of digital twinning to create 100% panels of synthetic data. Today, we will focus on the first three. Let's jump into data boosting. So just as a quick reminder from the previous slide, data boosting is about enhancing data sets to ensure more comprehensive sample while maintaining the data structures and statistical integrity of your human data sets. Straight away, let's jump into busting some myths. Synthetic data are not copies of real data. It is very important to remember that synthetic data mirrors real data patterns. It does not simply copy or upweight from your real data fields. In fact, at Ipsos, we believe that good synthetic data is actually meant to be somewhat different while still retaining the characteristics of the real data. In fact, good synthetic data should add some level of novelty or variability into the full data set once it's used. Now, like Amit said, that at Ipsos, when we are using any AI solutions, we are very cognizant of human intelligence combining with artificial intelligence to harness the power. And even within the field of synthetic data, to unlock its full potential, humanizing the data is extremely key. And this really comes to life in the world of product testing. Now, we Ipsos are the global leaders in product testing, even the leaders of product testing in India. So it is not really surprising that at Ipsos we have spent a lot of time looking at synthetic data in the world of product testing in our initial days of experimenting with synthetic data. Now, when we look at the total product experience through research and use synthetic data in it, the secret really is not in replacing or completely washing out the human data, but rather it is in augmenting it or in boosting it. So at Ipsos, we ran a huge R&D exercise where we validated the power of synthetic data by augmenting small human samples with synthetic data. How did we go about it? What is the methodology of generation that we used? So we used this method where there are two AI models which worked in tandem to develop synthetic data which is apt for product testing. One of the AI models is known as the generator. The job of the generator is to generate synthetic data sets. On the other hand, there is the discriminator. The discriminator looks at the data set which is generated and calls out the differences in patterns from the real data, sends that feedback back to the generator, which then improves in its generation of the next batch of synthetic data. Now, this feedback loop between the two AI models continues till the discriminator, cannot tell the difference between real data and synthetic data from the patterns, that emerge. Now, it is needless to say that through this feedback loop, the generator gets better and better at generating, and the discriminator gets better and better at discriminating. And this entire game, if you may, is known as, in technical terms, known as GAN or generative adversarial networks. So this is the synthetic data generation methodology that we used for product testing. Now, all that is fine, but of course, we have to validate, right? What we generate through human data and through human data, which is boosted with synthetic data. So what we did is that we compared numerous samples of purely human data. So let's say a typical product test sample size, one cell, 200, several cells like that, versus different combination ratios of humans and synths, starting from slightly conservative 50% human, 50% synth, going up to about 75% of augmented data through synthetic. And what are the factors that we look to validate with? We look at, are you able to take the same business decisions with the same confidence the way you're used to by looking at your action standards from full human sample data? Are your product rankings and are your significant differences in the data sets similar to what when you used full human sample? Are your data distributions retaining the consistency? Are your statistical correlations maintained? These are all the factors that we use to look at the quality of synthetic data generated. What is the big reveal in the realm of product testing. Within product testing, we found out that brands can make the same business decisions when human data is augmented with synthetic data and with the same level of confidence. Whether you are in the business of renovating the product for a big brand with significant market share, or you're innovating, creating new products to tap into completely new opportunities, move into new areas, synthetic data, as generated, as tested, and calibrated by Ipsos, works in the world of product testing. And just to give you some glimpses of our validation, the pilots showed similarities in relative rankings and statistical testing when we compared our human plus synth augmented data sets with the all human data sets. And then also, we saw that the synthetic data actually has the power to reveal insights which purely human, full human data sets cannot. Now, going back to that point that I made about how good synthetic data is actually supposed to bring in some variability and novelty into the data set. Now, with the power of synthetic data, you can actually boost for samples, or audiences which are difficult to reach. So you, with the use of synthetic data, you can actually far more powerfully de-average your total results, and you can discover amazing insights which even using full human data set with natural fallout samples can't give you. Now, that was all about data boosting in the world of product testing. Now, quickly jumping into data imputation. Just a quick reminder, data imputation is basically using ML to fill in missing information and combining or fusing data sets to create new data sets. A quick case study. This is a situation which should be very familiar to a lot of you who are attending this call. You have these surveys which are very long. You have large brand sets, long attribute lists, resulting in a lot of fatigue and boredom for respondents to go through. So, can we look at using synthetic data imputation to improve the respondent experience? And with this experiment and this pilot that we did, Ipsos, we are convinced that we can. What we did is that we successfully conducted a boosting and imputation experiment using Ipsos autoregressive imputation, or ARI. And as a result, to each respondent, we could actually ask 50 to 60% fewer questions. And then with imputation in the overall sample or the overall data set, we could still retain 90% plus accuracy. Better participant or respondent experience, improved data quality with more discrimination. And if you see this little green text in the small boxes over here, these are all the various technical tests that we do to look at the quality of our synthetic data. And this, in this particular experiment, they all returned excellent scores. The final use case that I want to talk about is in the realm of synthetic personas. We call them persona bots. They are really tailored digital assistants that create avatars of your consumer segments or your consumer cohorts that you may have uncovered through some large scale foundational research. And these avatars actually live with you. They live on your systems on a daily basis. They can talk to you and respond to your questions in natural language. And as a result of which, even stakeholders in your organization who may not be so research savvy or data savvy can actually partake in, conversing with these personas and, getting the best out of the research that you may have just concluded. But instead of talking a lot more about it, let me just play a small video which really brings out the power of Persona Bot. And finally, before I end my contribution to this webinar, I wanted to talk about our partnership with Stanford University on our journey of continuous improvement with the use of synthetic data and synthetic audiences. Uh, at Ipsos, we are proud partners with Stanford and the Synthetic Data Foundational Program. We conduct joint research with Stanford for generating state-of-the-art synthetic data sets and validating their accuracies. We are on the cusp of establishing a proprietary ground truth database along with Stanford, which is essential for validating and comparing the accuracy of the answers generated by synthetic respondents versus real respondents. And with that, I would like to hand it back to Pallavi to introduce our wonderful panelists for the fireside chat.
Thank you, Krishnendu. Uh, we will now move on to the fireside chat. I'm delighted to introduce our guest for the fireside chat today. Priyanka, welcome. Priyanka Surekha is working at PepsiCo as Associate Director, R&D, Sensory and Consumer Experience at AMESA, which stands for Africa, Middle East and South Asia regions. She's a fellow insights practitioner who we know to be both curious and willing to experiment, and also quite future focused. She will be in conversation with Geeta Lobo, who's our Chief Client Officer at Ipsos India, and they'll be speaking about synthetic data and its applications, about adopting newer technology and methodologies, and much more. So over to you, Geeta.
Thanks, Pallavi, and welcome, Priyanka. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be talking to Priyanka today. While we are talking about AI application, it is important to understand the response from those who have deployed this tech. So now let's hear from real clients about their experience with synthetic data. So I want to start, Priyanka, by asking you that at Pepsi, as a leading player in CG sector, and given that there are so many developments that are now happening in the field of insights, I'm sure you do have a process to experiment with new tech. And of course, given your own interest in new approaches to insight, so if you can share with us what is your process for selecting approaches and what is the criteria they kind of have to clear for you to deploy it more formally. That's what we'd like to hear first from you.
Thank you, Geeta, and thank you, Pallavi, actually, for a very wonderful introduction. So I would say that it's a very loaded question, Geeta. That first about being the future thing and then deploying it, and especially in organizations as big as PepsiCo, which is a global organization, it's a task for sure. But I think for all the audience out here, what is common is, it's always good to experiment with the least rigor project. So when I'm saying it's like a very easy to deploy project, so it's easy to fail and then get back on track. So that's the first thing which we look at whenever we want to try on something new, so that even if it fails, it's not a risk for anyone, neither the business, neither the agency, and neither the one who is deploying it internally in the company. The second thing is always, having an eye on the horizon. One should always have an eye on what's happening, what's not happening, and keeping the stakeholders very much in connect with what's happening, because then it's easy to have a buy-in whenever such technologies come in. So these are the basic tenets which I'm trying to explain it to you. And I would say every organization has some internal key performance indicators. So how does a new technology actually tick boxes on those internal KPIs? That is something very, very important before one embraces any new technology. Because every technology, I mean, I'm super impressed by what Krishnendu has mentioned about the data imputation and the science and the power of the synthetic data. But I think one has to follow the rigor of matching with the internal KPIs, whether that new technology is matching or delivering on those indicators.
So, a very sort of comprehensive approach is what I would say. On one hand, looking at the context where you can deploy it. On the other hand, trying to align stakeholders so they are also coming along in the journey. And
Yeah.
lastly, you spoke about very clear guidelines that you have as global company, all of which obviously ensure that whatever you deploy in vetting products and ideas and so on for your company are the state of the art and validated kind of approaches. So that's really great to hear. Now, I want to ask you, you're one of the clients who have now deployed synthetic data in product testing. And I just want you to think back to, when you were thinking about experimenting with it, what prompted your interest and what convinced you to do a synthetic product testing project with Ipsos. If you can throw some light on what you were grappling with at that time.
See, again, I'll refer back to the Krishnendu's chart. It was a very beautiful chart, a very powerful chart where we had moved from the 50-50 synthetic, the data boosting to data imputation, and then to 100% synthetic, with the digital twinning. So I would say that, the industry per se, the market research industry in totality is actually watching how the artificial intelligence and the machine learnings are merging together, right? And it's something a very watch out space. It can throw us off guard. It can throw us in place. And all of us are learning. In fact, we are also learning. We do have, done some trials, but I think we all are learning on where do we apply, where do we not apply, what are the watch outs. But one thing which I guess was mentioned, and I was noting it down, it was like very beautifully been done, that how synthetic data can help in data boosting, how synthetic data can help in data imputation, right? I mean, that's not going to replace, we haven't reached there. So that, it can replace the human data per se,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but the speed, the agility, what
Mm-hmm.
the synthetic data can bring in, that is something which is a key hook, I would say, without compromising on the other vectors like the data quality or the depth of the data.
So you spoke about agility, Priyanka. So in this particular project, what was your experience of agility? How do you compare it to something you would have done using just human data, for example? What was it like?
See, um, Geeta, again, it differs from project to project and it differs from organization to organization, right? I
Hmm.
mean, if I'm comparing it with anyways a faster research, then, synthetic data is almost at par.
Hmm.
But if I'm comparing it with any large scale conventional researches, then synthetic data, which will be a boost on data bit, it's definitely bringing in that agility, what's required.
Hmm. So now that you've used synthetic data in product testing, what are some of the other areas where you see good potential for it? You may still have to sort of go through your own process of clearing it and aligning it for deployment. But what seem at this moment like good places where you can possibly deploy synthetic data? What's your perspective as a frontline practitioner?
Again, it's a very thought provoking question. And always, because as I was mentioning, the wherever models of research models, whatever they are using using the artificial intelligence, they are always, it's a double-edged sword. So it's not very easy that let's cut the cake now on each and every project. It's not so easy. One has
Mm-hmm.
to evaluate the pros and cons of all the research models, whatever we have in the plate, and then choose the right project. So I think nothing yet as in mind that what all we can do. It's, as I mentioned, we are also in the learning phase, that how
Yes.
do we deploy in any other projects.
Yes. No, and I appreciate the caution. I mean, there is a huge responsibility associated with your function. So naturally, you will think through and be very careful about how you deploy it. Now, as the technology itself evolves, at Ipsos, you heard us say this before, we believe that we'll continue to integrate AI and synthetic into more solutions. I mean, it's a natural part of the refresh that we're going to do to solutions now. And but we believe while AI is an enabler, human data and inciting is always going to be there. We cannot, for example, conceive of deploying full synthetic data for product testing. Now,
Yeah.
from your perspective, if you look at the progression of synthetic data and the advancements that you may know of it, so where do you see this evolution taking you? Where do you see the evolution sort of taking insights as a function forward?
It's gonna be like almost like a tectonic shift, Geeta. What I see in future, because no one had imagined that we will be talking this and talking to you on this synthetic data 2 to 3 years back, right? So I think the way our market research industry is evolving is giving everyone a tremor. I mean, we need to stay relevant. And so we can always wish for, and you never know. I mean, there is someone as Elon Musk who's actually doing something quite unique. So what I would be more wishful for is something when we replace the data bit of human, but not the feelings of human. Those are
Mm.
something, the emotions stay there, but the data of
Mhm.
human, if we can replace. So yeah, and that was there in Krishnendu's slides also, that how do we do 100% synthetic. So
Definitely a way forward into future, and like you put it really well, tectonic shifts happening even without Elon Musk entering the industry, God forbid. I think we got a very good glimpse, and I think for all our fellow insights practitioner, it also offers some pointers on when they take the leap and take the journey forward in deploying synthetic, what are some of the considerations that they can keep in mind, learning from your and PepsiCo's experience. So, thank you so much for a thought provoking conversation. Like Amit mentioned at the beginning, keep posting your questions. We see a lot of questions coming up already. We'll try and address it as we go forward. And Priyanka, thank you so much. We look forward to collaborating on more such initiative. And with this, let me hand you over to Anthony on some updates Ipsos has on AI solutions. Anthony, over to you.
Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Geeta. A very interesting discussion. Some of the key points from Priyanka, I loved what he said because everyone in forums talks about agility, but I like what you mentioned about agility without compromising quality. And that solution need to be comprehensive and tick organizational KPIs. I think that is very important for me. And the last bit as well, uh, I like that you like the human intelligence in there, and you see AI as an enabler. And I completely agree. The industry is going through some massive shifts, but I would look at it as some exciting times ahead for us. Now, before we move to the end, I'm just going to share a few thoughts uh, of the future of MR and share some upcoming launches that Ipsos is doing as well. So we did a little bit of homework, and we asked senior professionals like yourself, what do you foresee are the big shifts in our industry, especially in India, over the next few months? And some interesting things have come up. The first one is actually quite interesting, very logical for an offline market, but it's multimodal data collection. So experts say that we're going to see surveys that are hybrid, face-to-face, that's online, mobile, all working together. And the big change is going to be the convergence of quant and qual. So it's a future, where you have free-flowing guide like qual, and you have a moderator bot that ask questions real time uh, and bases the answers, but you can operate on quant-like sample sizes. And finally, use AI to summarize, codify, and deliver the results. And the second shift, I think, which is an extension of the first one, fairly relevant, is multi-source data analysis, real-time data streams, and growth of predictive analytics. Now, a lot of professionals have said there's an urgent need to amalgamate data from diverse sources. So be it text, images, video, or even sensor data. We all believe they'll lead to more insightful conclusions and also help anticipate future trends. These are the big two that we have seen. And the last one, a smaller number have mentioned this, but fairly interesting. Experts have talked about moving away from traditional point-in-time reports to always-on insight agents. I think this is already here, and there are AI agents working continuously to gather, analyze, and update information real time. Now, for me, it all makes sense. And actually, it gives you an understanding of, Priyanka talked about, the tremors that are going through the industry. I think everyone's talking about it. And there's some big trends that the experts have talked about as well. I'm just going to show you what's installed at Ipsos, because some interesting updates, some future launches. This is for our Ipsos partners. These slides are for you. There are two parts to it. We have external and internal. Yeah, I want you to imagine a future, where you go onto your existing Ipsos platform and you're allowed to select your sample blend. So you could say, I need 100 humans. Can you top me up with 100 synths? This is what we call data augmentation workbench. This is coming soon. Watch out for the space. Another very exciting one is what we call a network of innovation agents. This one's really good. Again, all you need to do is go on the platform and speak to our agent. The agent will curate what you already know, generate learnings, ideas, concepts, but doesn't stop there. It identifies what we call learning gaps. It'll go ahead and fill the learning gaps as well and test the stimuli that is done for you as well. This is a teaser, but these agents can do a lot more. Yeah. And the one below is a little more internal, but you're going to see some things change at Ipsos. You're going to see faster survey deployment and real-time analysis coming in a big way all throughout the work we do. I just want to end it with Amit, what Amit mentioned. AI is everywhere at Ipsos. For me, the future is very exciting. I think the future is already here, but these are all exciting times for us. If you have any queries, you can always talk to your Ipsos partners as well. Thank you. Over to you, Pallavi.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And to all our other speakers and presenters, Priyanka, special thank you to you. Thanks, Geeta, Krishnendu, and Amit. We had a great lineup of sessions, and I hope you all found it interesting and useful for your business. We are now moving on to the Q&A section, and there are a lot of questions. We'll see how many we can pick up. Can I request all the presenters on screen? Thank you. Okay, so the first question. Do you see synthetic data replace real consumer data in the future? Krishnendu, can I ask you to answer this?
Yeah, sure, Pallavi. I think very valid question. But I think we have kind of answered this question in spirit through what we have demonstrated in our webinar today. Most of the use cases and applications that I spoke about were more around, how do you amplify, what real data that may have collected from a small sample, or like Priyanka also pointed out, how do you fill in missing, variables and data with using the power of synthetic data. So we are pretty much in the realm of joining human intelligence and artificial intelligence still. We also talked about synthetic personas, of course, but there again, the personas or the avatars are completely created from the data or the information that your own projects or programs may hold for you, whether it be a large segmentation project or a large profiling exercise or brand track or so on and so forth. So we are still in the realm of synth kind of learning from human data or adding value to it and so on and so forth. In the future, of course, Ipsos will also offer 100% synthetic audiences, but these 100% synthetic audiences or panels will be the result of, digital twinning. This is again something which Priyanka picked up, I think, which basically means that you will have some real panels or some real audiences or some real samples which have told you a little bit about themselves and their category usage and their pain points and frustrations or their triggers and their happiness and so on and so forth. And based on that, you will create their digital twins who will become your 100% synthetic panels. So even in that not so distant future, we would still the synths would still be learning from human universes, human responses, human experiences, and that's what's going to get used for insights using synthetic data. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Krishnendu. I will ask Amit to answer the next one. So the question is, there are many agencies that offer synthetic data for research beyond what we have highlighted today. So what is Ipsos doing differently?
Okay. Thanks, Pallavi. Interesting question. So I want to go back to the definition of synthetic data that I talked about initially. And just to refresh, it's artificially generated data based on real world patterns and real world data. So if you break it down into two parts, the first part, which is artificially generated data, I think that's the easy part. There are three or four broad models to generate synthetic data. The Python code will run into 35 or 40 lines. Anybody with a little bit of understanding of coding, and nowadays with Gen AI, anybody who doesn't understand coding also can generate synthetic data. But that's the easy part. The difficult part is to, make sure that this data is generated based on something in real life, something which is based on the responses given by real life people, by actual humans. And then based on that, we're generating the synthetic data. I think that's where Ipsos offers a unique advantage because as a survey research company, we speak to people all the time. And in a typical year, we would have spoken to 100 million plus people across 90 countries. If I look at India, which is still, offline interviewing is a large market, large business for us. Every day, 1,500 to 2,000 of our interviewers are talking to real people in their houses, right? So to that extent, anybody can generate artificial data, synthetic data, but we make sure that this data, in our case, in Ipsos's case, is based on data which has been collected from actual humans across 90 countries across different methodologies. So I think to that extent, our expertise to have that validated, high quality, real data from real people, that sets us apart. The second thing is just because you have the data doesn't mean you can make sense out of it. And I did talk about the three T's, and Kishendu also talked about some of the sort of rigorous testing that we do on the data, and that's where the effectiveness of a strong research mindset comes into being. Because if you take real data and if you run Python code, you'll get synthetic data. But how do I know that this data is actually replicating something which is similar to the real life data? So one needs to put in a lot of levers of statistics. One also needs to put some sort of sensible checks from an ethical AI perspective. And that's where I think, Ipsos is best equipped to do it. So I think for me, if I go back to the definition, generating is the easy part. But on what it is being generated and how do you ensure that this data actually makes sense, it has usability, it has trust, it has transparency. I think that's where Ipsos is quite uniquely placed as compared to some of the other agencies.
Loved your answer, Amit. I'll move on to the next question, and maybe Tony, you can answer this. The question is, How do I trust that synthetic data is reliable and of good quality? Some of the things that Amit was just talking about, but how can they trust it?
I think Amit touched upon it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like what Amit said. I think generation is the easy part. Anyone with a little bit of Python understanding can generate this nowadays. I think making sure it's right, making sure it's trustworthy, that's where Ipsos excels in. And we have a lot of measures put in place to make sure whatever we release, we are confident about it. So I think Katie touched about it in his slides as well. He talks about test of consistency. We check distribution scores, correlation, contingency scores. We look at deep structure scores as well. We also have a test called a novelty test to see how much of the newness the SIN data is able to bring in the overall data set. But yes, but I think the key message is that Ipsos prides itself in these checks, the added level of security that we bring to synthetic.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Tony. There's one more question that I think we can take up before we end. And maybe Krishnendu, you can take this. What can we know more about agentic AI? I think that's a new one we threw in here. Agentic AI from Ipsos.
Yeah, I think Anthony spoke about one of the things to look forward to, which is in the realm of developing new products or innovation. How we are looking at developing a network, a complete agentic network, which the client can interact with. And this agentic network will help the client kind of navigate right from, where do you draw your inspiration from for your innovation. So maybe, navigate the client through some fresh research, which enables, identifying consumer pain points and frustrations, then summarizing and, codifying that data uh, into usable data sets from which our generative AI algorithms can take on and generate the ideas and concepts which are a very familiar stimulus for us to test. But it doesn't just end there. Even the generated stimulus, which is, of course, generated by, this agentic AI network, is then tested through a synthetic, panel or audience. And then finally, some guidance is given to the client about how to launch, and from the generated, insights, ideas, concepts, how to probably improve them and launch for, better success in the marketplace. So this is, of course, expected to revolutionize not just the insights process in the early stage of innovation, but even the way, let's say, our client partners would work with multiple stakeholders like creative agencies, qualitative research agencies, and so on and so forth, which would be typically sequential and would end up in taking months even from ideation to actual launch. But this can actually crash it to a few weeks, and the clients can actually benefit from that, superlative sort of saving in timelines and resources and investments, and still go in with confidence to the launch and expect fairly, significant ROI from their investments around the launch. So that is one of the areas in which we are deploying agentic AI, which is a full network of agents. But there will also be, use cases of agentic AI where it may not be the end to end like I just described, but it could be maybe just designing a dynamic questionnaire agent, which just takes on the task of taking your information areas and converting it into a dynamic questionnaire. Anthony spoke about it, where it's almost like a questionnaire, a quant questionnaire, where it's not fixed, it's not structured like the way we say it is, but it is flexible and moves according to the responses given by the respondent. And then the agentic network takes on and analyzes the data and gives you the insights. So it may be smaller in scale like that as well, and those may come up earlier than the full agentic network. But there are several, sort of use cases, different domains. I spoke about innovation in NPD, but there would be other domains like creative testing, brand health tracking, and so on and so forth, where you will see significant deployment of agentic AI in Ipsos solutions.
Thank you so much, Krishnendu. So there's a lot of exciting new things to come up. This is all we have time for in the Q&A. I would love if you can share your feedback with us. It'll just take 60 seconds to answer a few questions if you scan the QR code here, and it'll help us bring better content and our relevant expertise to you. Stay close to your Ipsos leads for more developments and advancements, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you all for being here with us. Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you. Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.